Welcome to the channel. Here, we tell the story of everything, from the Big Bang to modern times. Each episode helps you fall asleep while learning how the universe, Earth, humans, and history all unfolded. Stay until the end for 5 minutes of fascinating facts you won't forget. Now relax, and let's begin Episode 1. Close your eyes, breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, let yourself drift gently into the stillness of the cosmos. There is no rush here, no noise, just the quiet hum of your heartbeat and the faint pulse of distant galaxies. Let the silence wrap around you, a silence older than time, a silence before time. Out beyond Earth, beyond the moon, beyond the stars, you know, is the vastness, a velvet black ocean filled with wonders. Tonight, we float together through space and time. The universe, like a painting, exists outside of time, yet within every moment it gives off whispers of its ancient history. The stillness is profound, not empty but full of potential. As you drift further, all that exists seems to breathe with you. The silence itself seems alive. It is a silence that hums, a cosmic lullaby that carries you deeper into the unknown. There is nothing to hold you back, no need to hurry. As you drift, the distance between you and the stars seems to fade, and what was once far away feels close enough to touch. As you float, you begin to sense a deeper connection to this vastness, as though every star, every galaxy is a part of you, a distant memory. This is your cosmic journey, a quiet unfolding of the universe, shared in this moment of stillness. And with each breath, the story of space and time whispers softly to you, its endless rhythm drawing you forward, towards something greater, something more. As the stars begin to flicker, you know you are on the edge of discovery. Imagine a time when there was no time, no stars to shine, no planets to circle, no atoms to dance, nothing. Not even darkness, because even darkness needs space to stretch into. Just a singularity, a point beyond comprehension, holding all the energy, all the possibility of everything that would ever be. No up, no down, no here, no there. Just stillness, a pregnant silence, timeless and weightless, waiting for something to become. Then, without warning and without sound, something shifted. Not an explosion, but an unfolding, a great blooming of being. The Big Bang, not a bang as we know it, but a rapid, radiant breath, a sudden expansion where space itself began to stretch and grow. In that fraction of a second, the very laws of physics were born, like rules whispered into the chaos. Time began to tick, space began to swell, heat surged, energy scattered. In that moment, everything changed, because everything began. Light had not yet arrived, but its story had started. Matter had no form, but it was on its way. For 380,000 years, the universe was a glowing fog, hot, dense, opaque. But it was growing, cooling, becoming. This wasn't just the start of stars or galaxies. It was the start of structure, of pattern, where randomness would find rhythm, where silence would give way to song. We often imagine beginnings with noise and fanfare, but this beginning was gentle in its own way, a symphony composed in silence, a canvas primed with invisible colors. It was the first breath before the first word, a whisper before the wind. And from that whisper, the story began. Not just of atoms and stars, but of everything we are. Every tree, every ocean, every heartbeat, already written in potential, waiting for time to bring it forth. It was not the beginning of something. It was the beginning of everything. The universe, in its infancy, was fire. Not a flame we could ever touch, not the crackling warmth of a hearth, but a boundless, blinding sea of radiant plasma. It was heat beyond heat, a brilliance beyond vision. Temperatures soared to trillions of degrees, and time ticked not in hours or seconds, but in fractions so small they almost didn't exist. Within this furnace, creation danced chaotically. Energy condensed into particles like sparks from an unseen forge. Quarks emerged, wild and fleeting. Gluons stitched them together, weaving the first building blocks of matter. Protons and neutrons came into being, not as things, but as patterns in the fire, ripples in a living ocean of chaos. For a moment, it was pure becoming, particles appearing, colliding, vanishing, repeating, a cosmic rhythm without direction, but full of promise. Every clash shaped the future. Every flicker was a rehearsal for what would one day become stars, planets, life. And then, slowly, steadily, the fire began to cool. Not extinguished, but calmed. Like a teacup left on a windowsill, the scalding soup of creation began to settle. With this cooling came clarity. Simpler elements, hydrogen and helium, took form, floating through the young cosmos like tiny notes waiting to be composed into galaxies. But the universe was still hidden from itself. Light was bounced, deflected, scattered, never released. The cosmos was glowing from within, but blind. A luminous fog with no sight. It was a beautiful paradox. Light everywhere, yet nowhere to be seen. An echo waiting for its first breath. A candle behind a veil. This era would last for hundreds of thousands of years. An age of warmth and waiting. An age where matter began to organize, where seeds of structure were sown, though nothing could yet be seen. And yet, all the while, gravity whispered. It pulled gently, slowly, guiding matter toward clumps and curves, planting the first hints of shape in the swelling void. The fire had unfolded. The chaos had cooled. And soon, very soon, the universe would open its eyes. 380,000 years after the beginning, everything changed. Until then, the universe had been a glowing, turbulent fog, dense, hot, and impenetrable. But now, the fire had calmed enough for a miracle of simplicity to unfold. Electrons, once wild and unattached, slowed and found partners in protons. Atoms were born, hydrogen mostly, with a hint of helium. The universe, for the first time, became transparent, and with that, light was set free. Photons, tiny messengers of energy, no longer trapped in the dense plasma, began their long, uninterrupted journey. They streamed across the cosmos, unimpeded, filling space with a soft, newborn glow. These same photons are still moving now, across the vastness of space, touching everything, brushing past galaxies, stars, planets, even you. We call this ancient light the cosmic microwave background. It is not light as we see it with our eyes, but a faint, invisible whisper, a relic of that first moment of clarity. A lullaby humming through the void, echoing from the cradle of the cosmos. It is everywhere. Between galaxies, between atoms, between your fingertips, a gentle afterglow of the universe's awakening. When scientists tune their instruments to listen to it, they hear not noise, but history. When they map it, they see patterns, faint ripples, tiny fluctuations in temperature and density. These are not imperfections. They are the fingerprints of creation, the wrinkles in the baby blanket of space, the seeds from which galaxies would rise, each ripple, a place where gravity would gather matter. Each variation, a clue to how stars would ignite, how planets would spin, how life might one day look back in wonder. This light is not just old, it is timeless. It tells us that we come from clarity born of chaos, from stillness rising out of storm. It reminds us that even in the earliest silence, the future was already whispering. In this light, we see the beginning, not just of space, but of structure, not just of matter, but of memory. And so the universe opened its eyes, and the journey continued, now bathed in the soft glow of its first true dawn. This was the cosmic dark ages, a quiet epoch where hydrogen and helium drifted aimlessly, thinly spread across the cosmos. There was no color, no structure, just silence, vast and absolute. A lullaby with no melody. But even in that stillness, something was unfolding. Gravity, ever patient, began its quiet work. Invisible hands gathered the faint gas into clouds. Slowly, gently, like mist drawn together by breath on a window pane. There were no sparks yet, no stars to ignite the night. Only the soft beginning of collapse, of pressure, of form. It was a time of waiting, the long pause between heartbeat and breath. And within it, the universe dreamed. Within these growing clouds, tiny fluctuations, remnants of those ancient ripples in the cosmic background, began to deepen. Gravity pulled more, gathered more, cradled the raw ingredients of everything to come. No rush, no fanfare, just the slow, inevitable drift toward ignition. Like the earliest stirrings of consciousness in deep sleep, the cosmos was preparing, stacking its kindling, building the stage, quietly rehearsing the brilliance that was to come. The silence was not empty. It was full of promise, a stillness with a future. And then, after millions of years, the first flickers began. But for now, in this dark and quiet age, the universe simply waited. Waiting to breathe its first fire. 100 million years of darkness passed. Then, at last, ignition. In the densest corners of collapsing clouds, gravity pressed inward with quiet insistence. Temperatures soared. Atoms crashed together with such force that hydrogen fused into helium, and in that fusion, light returned, not reflected, but created. The first stars were born. They were nothing like the stars we see today. These were giants, massive, hot, and wild, blue-white beacons that blazed with an intensity the young universe had never known. Their light pierced the shadows of the cosmic dark, stretching across vast distances, declaring the end of the silence. They lived fast, furious lives measured in millions of years, not billions. And when their time came, they died not with a whimper, but in spectacular detonations, supernovae that outshone entire galaxies. But these deaths were not destruction. they were creation. Inside their blazing hearts, simple elements like hydrogen and helium had been forged into something more. Carbon, oxygen, iron, elements that had never existed before, the raw materials of planets, oceans, and life. In their final moments, these stars scattered that stardust across the universe. They seeded the void with the ingredients of complexity. They wrote the next chapter with fire. Every atom in your body, your bones, your breath, your blood, was born in a star like this. In their life, they lit the dark. In their death, they built the world. From fusion came brilliance. From brilliance came dust. And from dust, the future waited to rise. With the birth of more stars came a new kind of structure. Gravity, the quiet architect, gathered these stars into families, vast, swirling collections bound by invisible threads, galaxies. Some spun into elegant spirals, delicate yet immense, like cosmic pinwheels frozen in slow motion. Others formed as great glowing clouds, elliptical and irregular, chaotic masterpieces of dust and light. They did not stay still. Galaxies drifted, danced, collided. They merged and reshaped each other, forming larger and more complex systems. Their interactions weren't violent in the way we imagine. Rather, they unfolded over billions of years, like tides rising and receding on an ocean of time. Among these dances was the one we call home, the Milky Way. It began as a modest swirl, a gathering of stars and gas in motion. Over time, it grew, fed by mergers, sculpted by gravity, refined by the slow spin of its arms. A galactic carousel, turning gently in the vast, dark, crafting stars in its spiral nurseries. Today, the Milky Way holds more than 100 billion stars, each with its own story, its own world, its own orbit in the grand choreography. Among them, one very ordinary, middle-aged star. Not too big, not too bright. But around it, something remarkable began to take shape. A small cluster of rocky worlds and gas giants. And on one of those worlds, tucked in a quiet corner of a modest galaxy, something extraordinary was waiting. A place with mountains and oceans, with air and warmth. A place that would learn to look back at the stars. One of them. Home. About 4.6 billion years ago, in a quiet spiral arm of the Milky Way, a cloud of gas and dust began to stir. Invisible forces, shaped by time and gravity, nudged it inward. It collapsed in on itself, slowly, silently, until its heart grew dense and hot. In the center of that collapse, pressure rose. Heat intensified. And then, as if sparked by destiny, hydrogen atoms fused into helium. A star was born. Our sun. It wasn't the biggest, nor the brightest, but it was stable, steady. A golden fire that would burn for billions of years, long enough to give rise to something more. Around it, the leftover dust and debris didn't drift aimlessly. It spun, caught in the sun's newborn gravity, forming a swirling disk like cream in coffee. Tiny particles clung together, first as specks, then stones, then worlds. They clumped, collided, merged. They were sculpted by chance and chaos. And from that dust, planets emerged. Gas giants bloomed in the outer cold. Rocky worlds solidified closer in. Moons followed, some captured, some born alongside. It was a dance of debris, a ballet of becoming. And on one small, stony planet, the third from this new star, everything was just right. A gentle warmth, liquid water, a protective atmosphere, a planet cradled in balance, bathed in sunlight, kissed by chemistry. It didn't look like much at first, but it held within it the potential for oceans, for forests, for thought, for life. All from a cloud, all from a star that woke in silence, all from dust warmed by light. Earth's beginning was not gentle. It was chaos wrapped in fire. Born from cosmic dust and collisions, this young planet was a molten sphere, a restless, churning world of volcanoes and liquid stone. The surface boiled. The air was thick with smoke and ash. Asteroids, still roaming freely from the birth of the solar system, struck again and again, carving craters, reshaping the land in violent bursts. One such collision changed everything. A massive object, roughly the size of Mars, slammed into Earth. The impact was cataclysmic, so powerful it tore a piece from the planet and flung it into orbit. That piece in time became our moon, locked in an endless dance with its parent world, pulling at oceans, shaping tides, guiding rhythms yet to come. Then, slowly, the Earth began to cool. Molten rock hardened into crust. Steam condensed, and rain, relentless, patient rain, fell for centuries, filling basins, carving rivers, giving rise to oceans. The skies were still red with sulfur, the seas dark and turbulent, but the fire had softened, and within those ancient, stormy waters, something remarkable began. Molecules, simple, fragile, restless, collided, combined, reformed. Lightning flashed. Hydrothermal vents bubbled from the deep. Energy stirred the primordial soup, like fingers tracing the surface of still water. And somewhere in that murky sea, chemistry began to dance. Not with purpose, not with thought, but with possibility. Chains of molecules twisted into patterns. Some patterns survived, some replicated. And from this fragile order, born of chaos and chance, came something new. Something that moved. Something that changed. Something alive. Learning how to crash on a shore. Patterns emerged, shifted, vanished. Until at last, one pattern endured. A molecule that could copy itself, not perfectly, not predictably, but enough to persist, enough to begin the story of life. What followed was not fast. It was a quiet, invisible age. Billions of years where life existed only as single cells, drifting through oceans, multiplying in silence. They fed, they adapted, they endured. Then slowly, complexity emerged. Some cells learned to work together, forming colonies, then organisms. Some discovered a secret power, photosynthesis, the ability to turn sunlight into energy. These tiny architects began to release oxygen into the seas, and eventually, the sky. And the world changed color. What had once been a haze of volcanic gases cleared. Skies turned blue. Oceans deepened to teal. And forests, still unimaginable then, were already written into the future, waiting to rise from the richness these cells had sown. With oxygen came breath, With breath came potential. Earth was no longer just a planet of stone and sea. It had begun to breathe. And life, once fragile and hidden, was no longer a whisper. It was ready to bloom. Life did not remain simple. Over time, single cells joined forces, cooperating, communicating, becoming more than the sum of their parts. Multicellular organisms emerged, delicate at first, then diverse and strange. In ancient seas, jellyfish drifted, soft and glowing like living lanterns. On land, ferns unfurled, stretching toward the filtered light. Fish learned to swim, to sense, to survive. Reptiles crawled ashore, then grew scales, claws, and thunderous voices. The earth pulsed with movement, with the rise and fall of creatures across epochs. Then came a quieter revolution, the age of mammals. Small at first, hidden in shadows. But with time came changes, warm blood, fur, and curious minds. Life grew more aware, more adaptive. Evolution sculpted new shapes, new thoughts. And from one fragile branch of that sprawling tree, something remarkable arrived. A creature stood up, looked to the horizon, and then looked beyond it. It wondered. It asked questions. It shaped tools from stone, fire from wood. It painted stories on cave walls. It mapped the night sky and gave names to the stars. That creature was your ancestor. And you are part of that lineage. A flicker of an ancient fire still burning. A walking story shaped by time, weathered by survival, refined by memory. You are built from oceans and stardust. You carry the code of everything that came before you. Each success, each failure, each small step forward. You are not separate from this story. You are the story, the product of billions of years of trial, error, adaptation, and persistence. Look at your hands, not just as tools, but as time-traveled artifacts. Every cell, every atom within them carries a history far older than Earth itself. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a dying star, compressed in a final breath and scattered across the cosmos by a supernova's last cry. The calcium in your bones was shaped in the violent aftermath, cooled and woven into the fabric of rocky worlds. The oxygen you breathe, in every inhale, was born in the fusion furnaces of ancient suns, long extinguished, but whose light still echoes. You are not separate from the universe. You are its echo, its witness, its voice, made conscious, made curious, made capable of looking up and asking, "Where did I come from?" You carry within you the record of everything that came before. The stars, the dust, the oceans, the first cell, the first breath, the first thought. Every heartbeat is a continuation. Every question, a thread reaching back into deep time. Your laughter, your grief, your dreams, they are the universe expressing itself in a new language. You are not lost in the vastness of space. You are woven into it, a strand in the grand tapestry, a brief moment of awareness with ancient roots. You are, quite literally, a soul wrapped in stardust, a miracle made of memory and matter, a walking, breathing chapter of the cosmos, alive and awake to its own story. For all we've discovered, there is still so much we don't know. In fact, the more we learn, the more we realize how much remains hidden, veiled in mystery, scattered like whispers through the stars. There is dark matter, a silent presence that does not shine, reflect, or glow. We cannot see it, but we know it's there. It threads galaxies together, shaping the cosmos like scaffolding made of shadow. There is dark energy, stranger still, a force not pulling things in, but pushing them apart. It's accelerating the universe's expansion, stretching space itself faster and faster, as though something unseen is urging the cosmos outward. There are neutrinos, tiny, almost ghost-like particles. They flood the universe, and yet they pass through your body by the trillions each second, slipping through atoms unnoticed, unbothered. There are black holes, the collapsed hearts of stars. Their gravity is so intense that time itself slows near them. What feels like a minute by their edge could be hours or years somewhere else. They are the universe's deep breath, silent, dense, and unknowable. And beyond all that, beyond the edges of maps and mathematics, there may be other Earths, other suns warming other skies, other oceans rippling with wind, other eyes, perhaps, staring upward and wondering the same things we do. We are not alone in our curiosity. The universe may be filled with questions, whispered across light years, waiting to be heard. And maybe, someday, we'll listen closely enough to answer back. The universe is not finished. It is still expanding, still unfolding its story, quietly, endlessly. Galaxies drift farther apart. New stars are born. Old ones fade. Nebulae bloom like cosmic flowers in the dark. And so are you. Still growing, still dreaming, still becoming. Tonight, as your eyes close and the world softens, you become a voyager once more, not of rockets and engines, but of thought and memory. You sail through the soft currents of imagination. You glide between constellations of feeling. You float beyond the edges of time into galaxies made not of matter, but of meaning. Each breath becomes a solar wind, carrying you gently across the unknown. Each heartbeat a gravity well, pulling you inward, to peace, to rest, to home. Let go. Let the stars cradle you in their ancient arms. Let silence sing you a lullaby, spun from the hum of creation. Let dreams unfold like petals in the night, delicate and vast. You are not small. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are the story the universe tells when it wants to feel. You are stardust learning how to rest. You are a flicker of light, safe within the dark. And as the night deepens, remember, you are timeless. You are part of everything. You are home. Know that you are part of something vast, beautiful, and unfinished. A story still being written. Good night, traveler, and may your dreams carry you to the stars.